It's already been a very busy news cycle day, but we have some more rumors talking about teams like the Winnipeg Jets, Calgary Flames, the Ottawa Senators, and the Brinket, the Flyers. What's going on with Erik Karlsson? We're going to recap the NHL Awards. We have some signings to take a look at, schedules out for next year, and a whole bunch more. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton of news to get to here today. I haven't been able to get to my regular news video yet, considering all the other videos we've made based on all the trade activity. It's been a very, very busy day here, making videos on trades. Obviously, they're all posted to the channel. We finally got a Pierre-Luc Dubois deal. Of course, we saw other deals, including Alex Newhook to Montreal, Tyler Toffoli to New Jersey. That's all posted in separate videos, which I'll link in the YouTube card section, in case you need to get caught up. But first, let's recap the NHL Awards, which went down last night in Nashville. Not a lot of surprise. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about them. Most of these awards were really not overly shocking. Of course, Connor McDavid won the Hart Trophy almost unanimously. One voter gave him a fifth-place vote. Everybody else who voted gave him first-place votes. It was a Pittsburgh writer. It's a very unusual circumstance. I'm not sure why he put McDavid fifth, but at the end of the day, we're not going to talk about that too much. McDavid wins without really much. It's not close at all. He also, of course, gets the Aaron Ross Trophy for being the scoring leader based on stats. We knew that. And he also gets the Ted Lindsay Award as well, which is voted on for most outstanding player, voted on by the players. So McDavid cleans up. No real shocker there. Anze Kopitar wins the Lady Byng. Jack Hughes, I believe, was second place for most gentlemanly players. So clearly a player who was got a strong performance, takes very little penalties, and is known for being a good sport and good sportsmanship on the ice. Linus Ullmark of the Boston Bruins wins the Vezina Trophy. That's a well-deserved award, not overly shocking there. Erik Karlsson wins the Norris Trophy for top defenseman. Again, not overly shocking. I see some people complaining, saying Adam Fox should have won because of Karlsson not being the strongest defensively, and I get it. I understand he put up a ton of points this year. Over 100 points, which is rare for a D-man, and he still didn't have a good plus-minus, but at the end of the day, I almost think they should have two awards for D. They should have one for offensive and one for defensive, but as of right now, they don't, and I have no issue with Karlsson winning the Norris. Matty Beniers wins the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. No huge surprise there. I was a little bit surprised on how some of the other votes went. The fact that Senators forward Shane Pinto didn't even get any votes for anything, not even a top 5 vote from anybody, was shocking to me. I thought Jake Sanderson should have had a little bit more love. Overall, though, I fully expected Beniers to win and Stuart Skinner likely to be second. So, again, no shock there. Michael Backlund wins the King Clancy Award. Chris Letang wins the Masterton Trophy. He had a great speech as well. Of course, Letang's gone through a lot medically. Certainly, had a nice speech thanking his family and after everything he's been through. So, that was a nice moment. Jim Montgomery wins the Jack Adams Trophy for Best Coach of the Year, and he also had a great speech too about overcoming his addiction to alcohol a few years back. Of course, he lost his job when he was the head coach of the Dallas Stars because of it, and has bounced back and wants, just talking about if you're having issues, you're not alone. Talk to somebody, and you can bounce back and recover and do great things. It doesn't have to ruin your life. So that was a great speech by Monty. So that was a great moment as well. Patrice Bergeron wins the Selke Award again for the 6th time. Again, I thought Bergeron had a great season, certainly deserved the love, but at the same time, I think sometimes people vote for him just because he's Patrice Bergeron. I loved Bergeron. I think great respect, one of my favorite players, but I think some of the other guys in the category here should have got a little bit more, some more votes, but at the end of the day, it's hard to argue with Bergeron winning. Steven Stamkos wins the Mark Messier Leadership Award. Certainly well-deserved. As a great leader and captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Another award, which I believe was new. It's almost like they created an award for Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard wins an award. He's not even drafted yet, it's the E.J. McGuire Award of Excellence, which I was watching the award show and I had left the room for a second, came back and I see Connor Bedard on stage accepting an award. I was like, what is going on here? It's like, did they create this just to give to Bedard? Anyways, he's a special player, going to be a special player. Likely going to be the number 1 pick to the Blackhawks tomorrow night, but hasn't happened as of yet. The all-rookie team was Stuart Skinner between the pipes, Owen Power and Jake Sanderson as your pair on defense, and your forward group up front is Matty Beniers, of the Kraken, Wyatt Johnson of the Dallas Stars, and Matias Maccelli of the Arizona Coyotes. A few other news and notes from around the league, some organizational announcements. We get confirmation today. Pierre Dorion, the GM of the Senators, spoke to the media, confirmed that the coaching staff, DJ Smith and his assistants, will be returning. Basically said how he's talked to Michael Andlauer, the new owner, or soon to be owner when the deal closes. And essentially that Andlauer gave him, control to basically do everything he normally does. Doesn't really expect him to do anything any differently. Dorion had made a recommendation to the board that they present that to the new ownership group, that they keep the coaching staff for another season. So that's going to be moving forward. Brad Treliving, the new GM of the Leafs, also finally confirmed that Sheldon Keefe was going to be coming back as the Leafs head coach. Again, no surprise there. We already kind of figured that, but nice to hear it officially out of the words from the team. Ryan Getzlaf, longtime former captain of the Anaheim Ducks, is going back to the organization. He's taken a job with the Anaheim Ducks in player development. So obviously a great role model for their young prospects to be working with. So great to see him getting involved not long after being retired. The Montreal Canadiens made an interesting move today as well, hiring Jim Ramsey and Max Gauthier, both for their sports science department, which essentially is people who look after players that are injured and obviously all the treatments, all that kind of things. They both are coming from the New York Rangers. Of course, we know Jeff Gordon was with the Rangers for a long time, so that's the connection there. But the connection here that makes it a really good, almost like a coup, if you will. The Rangers, these guys have appeared to be really good at their jobs. The Rangers had the fewest number of man games lost to injury last year, while Montreal was at the top. We knew Montreal had made some changes within their medical department and weren't happy with how things were operating because the injuries they were getting were dragging on, and just the number of players that were getting hurt and taking forever to come back was not good. So this is a real good addition there for the Montreal Canadiens. We found out as well there's a few players that are not going to be re-signed for their existing teams, including some of these guys, some of them are RFAs. Logan Brown of the St. Louis Blues is not going to be qualified, so he'll become a UFA. Max Comtois of the Anaheim Ducks appears like he's likely not getting a QO. It will become a UFA. We had already learned about some of the Senators players who were not going to be qualified before. Now we confirmed as well that Julien Gauthier also is in that list. And looks like Miles Wood is not going to be returning to the Devils. He'll hit unrestricted free agency. Also get confirmation that the Hurricanes are not going to be re-signing Shane Gostisbehere. Again, no big shocker there. He will hit UFA market on July 1 here as well. Some signings today. We got Nick Foligno inking a 1-year deal to Blackhawks for $4 million. Obviously, he was included in the Taylor Hall trade, which between the Bruins and Blackhawks yesterday. I wasn't sure where Nick Foligno was a pending UFA, but obviously the Blackhawks had interest to sign him. And to be honest, Nick Foligno was never going to get that kind of money anywhere else. Good for Nick Foligno to get paid handsomely. He's not worth $4 million, but the Blackhawks have money to spend. They're not even at the cap floor as of yet. So they certainly need some players to fill up the roster and to make sure they're cap compliant. So he'll be a good veteran with guys like Bedard and some of the other young prospects. He's a great leader, good role model. So there's lots to like that way. He gets paid handsomely, more than he would have anywhere else. And maybe he can put together a decent season, play a bigger role than he would on most teams, and maybe get himself traded at the deadline for a chance to chase the Stanley Cup. Overall, I think it's a pretty good plan for Nick Foligno, and certainly hope he does well in Chicago. The Dallas Stars have announced today they've signed Evgeny Dadonov. Of course, he was a deadline pickup from Montreal. Of course, they traded Dennis Gurianov for him. Gurianov is not going to be qualified by Montreal, but the door's not closed on him staying with the Habs. They may sign him or talk to him or try to sign him for an amount less than his QO if he's willing to do that. But Dadonov was a real good fit in Dallas and actually played some of his better hockey than he has in the last couple of seasons. He gets a 2-year contract extension at $2.25 million. So that's a good depth option there for Dallas. The Nashville Predators today announced they've assigned Jake Livingstone, who was a pending RFA. He gets a 2-year deal at $775,000. And the Columbus Blue Jackets have extended another RFA. Trey Fix-Wolanski gets a 2-year deal as well. It's a 2-way contract for both years, $775,000 at the NHL level, with over each year is a little bit different, but between $400,000 and $450,000 guaranteed income. So when he's getting paid a bigger salary in the American Hockey League to make sure that he hits that minimum target, depending on where he ends up playing more games next year. Of course, the NHL schedule for the 23-24 season came out today as well. It was fully released a few hours earlier this afternoon. So certainly if you're looking to attend games, you want to mark some key dates on your calendar. I'm not going to take the time to go through all the games that really, I could talk for hours about the schedule, considering there's 32 teams and they all have, big games throughout the year. The season's obviously going to get started second week of October and run, I think it's April 18th is the final day. All kinds of, milestone games and things to keep your eye on. So if you're planning on attending games or looking to fill out your calendar and schedule, it's all available down on NHL.com. So certainly check things out. Now, onto the rumor mill for the day. We've had a lot of activities. I mentioned a lot of the stuff we've been talking about has now come to be and has moved on. Like we talked about Taylor Hall likely being a cap dump for the Bruins. Well, that's taken place and done with. We talked a bit about Kevin Hayes being a cap dump for the Flyers. It's now complete. He's now a member of the St. Louis Blues. We've been talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois for some time. He's now on an 8-year contract in Los Angeles. I know a lot of people are already joking that he survived 3 years in Columbus, 3 years in Winnipeg. Is it going to be 3 years in LA? He's going to want to trade it there too. You certainly wonder if the Kings are a better team with him in their lineup. We'll have to wait and see. But he signed for 8 years at $8.5 million. So that's all done with now. We saw Alex Newhook traded. Obviously Tyler Toffoli earlier today. So there's still lots things to take place. So let's start with the Winnipeg Jets. We know that the Blake Wheeler situation is likely coming to a close here any time now. Likely the next day or two, we're expecting a Blake Wheeler buyout. It's still possible maybe they retain 50% and treat him. But from what the NHL insiders are saying, it sure sounds like a buyout. I think it's trending to be more likely at this point. So that should be happening soon. They have until June 30th for the waiver wire to put him through. So we'll see. Connor Hellebuyck, when it comes to trading their goaltender, things like this seems like have cooled off on Hellebuyck. The main reason is most teams, there's lots of interest. There's no shortage there. But teams that are inquiring on Hellebuyck would like to sign him to an extension because they don't want to give up a bunch of assets for an all-star level goalie and only have him for 1 year. The problem is on a contract extension, Hellebuyck has rumored to be looking for $9+ million. That's a lot of money. And the other thing holding things back on Hellebuyck is that there's a lot of goaltenders on the market between goalies that are rumored to be available for trade and between that and the UFA market, there's a lot of options. So as much as Hellebuyck's great and right near the top of that list, teams are going to be reluctant to ink him to a $9 million contract, especially when you just saw a guy like Eden Hill win the Stanley Cup. You do wonder, do you need that all-star or expensive goaltender? Sergei Bobrovsky would say you do, and obviously he was a huge part in getting the Florida Panthers to where they were to compete for the Cup. So I guess it's depending on how you look at it. There's different ways to go about things, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are, seems like they're still skeptical on giving him an extension for that kind of money, and that's kind of certainly holding things up. So we'll see, but the talks have cooled because of the contract demands. When it comes to the other options in Winnipeg, like I said, Wheeler we talked about, Scheifele still trending towards likely being dealt, but it's hard to say. I know one team to watch there is Boston, but after Boston freed up some money by trading Taylor Hall, many people feel like they're going to make a run at keeping Tyler Bertuzzi, and I think that's probably a fair assessment. But based on comments from GM Dom Sweeney today, it sounded like Sweeney was not overly confident they were going to be able to keep any of their pending UFAs, including Bertuzzi. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what their intentions are. You would think Bertuzzi would be their target with the new freed up money, and they're likely going to still look at buying out Mike Riley. They could move Matt Grzelcyk, so they could get a little more space to have a little bit more flexibility too. So we'll see. Erik Karlsson's getting a lot of attention, of course, after making a few comments and interviews at the awards in Nashville, talking about, he'd really like to be traded. He basically said he'd like to be traded as soon as possible. But at the same time, he wants to make sure he gets things done right and ends up in a spot where he's going to be happy to have a chance to win. He wants to win the Stanley Cup before his time is up in the NHL. It's just that simple. Now, GM Mike Greer commented on the situation today, saying that for anybody out there who's thinking that they're going to retain 50% on Toffoli, you're probably holding your breath on that. It's not a good idea because they're likely not just giving him away, is what he said. So it doesn't sound like they really want to retain that much money, and they do expect a decent return. So right now, there's rumors that teams like Seattle, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are all kind of kicking tires, you can say. I don't think anything is real serious on Karlsson right now. At least it doesn't sound that way. But they're the main teams that have been kind of stupid around, investigating, trying to figure out if there's a way for them to make it work. Carolina seems to get all the top defensemen, so it wouldn't be shocking to see them figure it out. But, would Karlsson want to go there? They have such a strong blue line, which is great in a way. But at the same time, like he showed in San Jose that until he was a clear-cut number one, he wasn't really able to really break through and have a phenomenal year. So, hard to say what happens there. Obviously, he'd be reunited with Brent Burns in Carolina. Karlsson is really looking forward to a trade. I think they have a limited amount of time they can get this done. And I think the Sharks are going to have to eat a fair bit of money. Maybe not 50%, but probably at least 40 or close to it, I would think. So we'll see. I think it's going to be more complicated as much as Karlsson wants to move. Not going to be easy at all. The Flyers, of course, have been busy. We heard about obviously the Kevin Hayes trade is finally done, but it was not as big as it could have been. The Philadelphia Flyers were hoping to get Torrey Krug back in that deal from the St. Louis Blues, but he would not waive. There was talk that the Flyers did speak to the New York Islanders about acquiring Krug in that deal and then flipping him there, seeing if he'd waive for the Islanders. Things never really got too far in that front. I'm not sure Krug is exactly what the Islanders want. I don't know if we really get to the point where they asked Krug, because I don't know if the Islanders were overly receptive, but apparently there were some conversations around it. I'm not sure how serious things really were there. But as far as the other moves the Flyers are working on, they're still talking and having conversations around Travis Konechny, Carter Hart, obviously Travis Sanheim still out there, Scott Lawton. The Flyers and Danny Briere are expected to be very, very busy, and I still think that at least a few more of these bodies will end up getting moved out here between today, tomorrow, like in the next couple of days. They don't want to go into the season with too many players and have to make too many moves later on. They kind of want to get their team together, but they're going to need something for the deadline. Sometimes the prices are even better around that time of year. Just depends. The Florida Panthers are reportedly actively shopping Anthony Duclair. Of course, they need cap space to try to make some other upgrades. I know they want to add help on the blue line, and Duclair seems to be the main piece they're dangling to try to do that. I know they're probably talking to Calgary about Noah Hanifin. Apparently, another name that's out there as well. I'm not sure if they're really on Florida's radar, but Nikita Zadorov of Calgary. Again, not only Hanifin, Zadorov's name apparently getting a lot of mentioning, a lot of play at the draft, and we'll see if he's another piece that gets dealt, especially where they may not re-sign Radko Gudas. We don't know the status of him with the Panthers moving forward. Zadorov would be a physical type defenseman who they might be able to find a little younger or cheaper, perhaps. We'll see. But yeah, there's some names there, and the Panthers definitely looking for help on the blue line. The Sabres are also another big team looking for that, so they're probably competing for a lot of the same guys. When it comes to Alex DeBrincat in Ottawa, still a lot of NHL insiders seem to think Detroit's going to be the landing spot, but Pierre Dorian in his press conference today said he didn't expect to get back into the first round. I mean, why would you trade DeBrincat at the draft this year and not get a first round? Now, they do hold the Bruins first rounder next year, unless they take a first-round pick in 2024, and then one or two other assets, like a player that can come off the roster, like a Jonathan Berggren, Philip Zadina, something along those lines. Maybe, I don't know. But it was just curious to me that Dorian said he didn't expect to get back into the first round of the 23 draft, and this seemed to be a little bit, just very certain that it wasn't going to happen. So, I don't know. I mean, DeBrincat is, you would think, a first-round pick, or does that mean maybe that they're got their sights up more of a roster player? You have to think it's a possibility. I know a player like Toffoli, who just moved to New Jersey, was definitely of interest for them, and the price wasn't huge. They could have been able to make that work for sure, you'd think. And then, of course, maybe like a guy like Konechny in Philly, another name that the Sens are probably interested in based on what they're looking for, but it's getting challenging out there. We'll see. But DeBrincat, worst case scenario, he signs a 1-year deal with the Senators, comes back next season, and maybe they move him later in the year. If there's any chance that he changes his mind and wants to stay, maybe things change. But if not, they can do a deal later. I just would think it would be better for them to get it done with now, because if they go into the season, if he does have a better year and he's really, hot, scoring 30, 40 goals by the deadline, do you really want to move that when you're hopefully trending towards the playoffs? Not really. Is that tough that time of year to make a trade that's a hockey deal where you're going to bring back a similar player? So we'll see what happens, but DeBrincat still very much in conversations, but nothing real close as of yet. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.